If the Miami Hurricanes are going to finish with another top 10 class or even a top 5 class in recruiting, it's probably going to require some big flips. So who's coming?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
9-0. Miami's got Georgia Tech on the road this Saturday. I am Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Miami Hurricanes currently have the number 11 class of 2025 in recruiting with about 4 weeks left until National Signing Day. Now, we've seen it the last couple of years. When Mario Cristobal shines up those loafers, Miami can land some big names right before, right on signing day, including some big flips. You know, we remember Armando Blunt and Jordan Lyle flips like that last year. Mark Fletcher, Justin Scott was a big flip last year. Mark Fletcher the year before. We're bringing on our good pal, Brad Tejeda. And on this episode, Brad, we're going to talk about some of the matchups between Miami and Georgia Tech this weekend because, yeah, as happy as we are about being 9-0, you've got to keep it rolling. You've got to run this table here. We'll talk about Miami's biggest needs when it comes to recruiting, biggest needs on the field for this weekend because, you know, we'd love to see the defense play a complete game. They've been opportunistic. But let's talk about recruiting targets, Brad, before National Signing Day. And, you know, I think if we look at biggest needs for the future, we need to keep stacking up the defensive backfield for the future. And a name that's come up a lot between you and me and recruiting analysts nationwide is Ben Hanks Jr., who's committed to Florida. He's from South Florida, but his father played at Florida. What do you think's going on there with four-star cornerback Ben Hanks?
Yeah, Alex, thank you so much as always for letting me join the show and talk some Hurricanes football and recruiting. But to your point, first guy right off the bat, Ben Hanks Jr. out of Booker T, Washington. To your point, this is a Florida legacy, one of the few Florida legacies that Miami is going after. Of course, Vernell Brown, the third, who's also not just a second or third generation, but I believe fourth generation Gator legacy. They go a lot more further back than Ben Hanks Jr. Thankfully, this staff has done a very, very good job with Ben Hanks Jr. in particular, as far as making him feel like a priority from the beginning of his recruitment process, going back a couple years ago. Ben Hanks Jr. is probably at the top of the list as far as guys in the secondary that we're continuously targeting in this class that I feel very confident that will probably end up being a Miami Hurricane. This is a playmaker, a guy that can make plays on the defensive side of the ball. When you watch this team this year currently, we could use a few of Ben Hanks Jr.'s or even, Drake Stubbs, who I'll mention later on in the show. But we need ball hawks. We need guys that could shut down one side of the football field and kind of scare the quarterback and these opponents that we're going after. As you're seeing right now, we're a little depleted in the secondary. You got a true freshman, OJ Romanos Frederic out of St. Thomas Aquinas, who's really been doing his thing all year, probably a freshman All-American. And that's got to be a great selling point to some of these recruits that Mario's going after.
Yeah, no doubt. And then another flip candidate in the defensive backfield, cornerback Shamar Arno, who's originally from South Florida, plays in Georgia now, but he's committed to USC. And we've seen it in recent years. Like, it's not always easy for USC to keep guys from the East and the East Coast committed there and get them over the finish line. Do you think Shamar Arno is another important defensive back that Miami could flip?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one where he may want to be playing closer to home, and some of these aspects, not only with Shamar, but another guy I'll mention later on the show, Jarquez Carter, my backyard out here in Newberry. Some of these guys are committed to other programs that are just across the country, whether it's USC or Ohio State, where these families, when it gets closer down to see their high school season ending, and they start to get the bags prepared, get the letters signed, that's when reality starts to set in for not only these high school recruits, but also their family. And sometimes, depending on how the season goes for some of these other schools that have been recruiting some of these guys, it could really sway in a different direction. And I think playing at home, being closer to the family, this is another young man that's from the Broward area. And Miami's been doing a very good job in the last month or two of really gaining some traction on the Shamar recruitment. And I believe he's probably going to be making it down if it's not for the last home game of the season, the bye week right before. I know that Miami is gearing up for 2 more last big-time recruiting visits before, obviously, early signing day begins in less than a month. So to your point at the beginning of the show, the loafers are definitely getting put on the feet in every second that we're talking. And I believe they're going to get to step in here in the next couple of weeks because early signing day is right around the corner. And we know Mario's not afraid of flipping some of these guys.
Yeah, I know, most in the Miami fan base who follow recruiting, they've not given up on DJ Pickett, right? Now, I will say that after when he, committed to LSU over Miami and Oregon, and I really started to understand the kind of relationship, that he has with the cornerbacks coach there at LSU, Corey Raymond. I don't know. I've been, and then he doesn't, he was maybe planning to come to the Florida State game a couple weeks ago. He did not end up coming to Miami for that. So I'm getting the vibes that LSU might get this one over the finish line. But then people are sending me screenshots on social media. I don't know if they're like playing with our emotions of like DJ talking with, his cousin Booker Pickett, who just got a sack this past weekend for Miami. Like they're not ready to see us play together. And then Miami fans are like, wait, are they plotting something in secret? Then they delete the tweet. Like listen, recruits on social media, there's a lot that gets thrown out there. Some of it's trolling, some of it's just thinking out loud. I don't know what to think about DJ Pickett, but I am of the mind that he's probably going to follow through with his LSU commitment. How optimistic would you be about Miami flipping the top cornerback in the class of 2025?
I've never been shy about DJ Pickett. Anyone that hears me as far as talking recruiting, I've kind of always said this thing with DJ Pickett, where 2 years ago, our prime focus was Reuben Bain. We locked him up, secured him out of our backyard. Then you had JoJo Trader last year, secured him up as well. That was another guy that we just pinpointed at the top of our board each and every cycle. And this is another year where DJ Pickett has always been at the top of the list, not only for me, but obviously Miami recruiting as well. And out of Zephyr Hills, this is a young man that, again, I bring up the word family. The closer it gets to signing day and when, these games start to wrap up and you start to see a Miami Hurricane program actually play well on the football field and not only be a top 4, top 5 team in the nation, but there's still glaring weaknesses on this team towards someone like DJ Pickett that is watching this great Miami Hurricane team each and every week can still see himself playing day one on this magical run that Miami's going after, because he could look at a guy like OJ Romanos Frederic and say, if this young man has the opportunity and he's able to do it each and every week, I can go right in and do the same thing. So I think, with his cousin Booker Pickett getting his first career sack a couple games ago as well, obviously his other relative and Cannon Pickett, 2026 offensive lineman, who Miami is in the thick of things, and I believe that they'll probably land his commitment as well. I mean, you got 2 out of 3 of the Picketts. It's only right that DJ joins the club, and I think when it's all said and done, I still like Miami getting DJ Pickett. I think it's going to be a close one. It's going to be a close one, but I think this was always one of those recruitments that you wasn't going to get shirt up early on. You were going to have to battle to the end, and you were going to have to prove throughout the football season that this could be a legit football program. And it seems like right now we're doing everything on the football field. So it's time for the loafers to take care of some business off the football field. But I like DJ Pickett.
I guess we're rooting for Alabama this weekend then, because DJ he's expected to be at LSU for Alabama visiting LSU. I guess I don't often say this, but I guess should I say those 2 words, Brad? Should I say roll Tide this weekend?
Yeah, we could definitely roll Tide. And I do, to your point, though, you did bring up a good point where a couple weeks ago for the Florida State game, he was supposed to visit. There was a few games so far this year that DJ Pickett was supposed to make that visit, and still he has yet to make a home appearance for this football season. And Luke Nickel was another guy that Florida State weekend that was supposed to come, but both of those gentlemen couldn't come because of high school issues. I believe it had prom or something behind the scenes like that. Homecoming. There you go. So they had homecoming as well. So that was, a pretty good excuse on why you couldn't come to this game. But like I mentioned before, the Wake Forest game, last home game of the season for Miami, and then that bye week. Those are going to be two crucial weeks for Miami to really close in on a lot of these guys from a recruiting aspect. I will say this. I will feel a little less confident about the DJ Pickett to Miami if he does not show up either one of those weeks. So that would be something to monitor throughout the recruitment process for DJ Pickett.
Got more to get to here with Brad Tejada. Couple of important linebacker targets that Miami's after. One of them is committed elsewhere. One of them is uncommitted with crystal balls to Miami. I want to get Brad's take on the continual magic shows that Cam Ward is putting on and what his next act is going to look like against Georgia Tech this weekend. You guys want to keep it locked right here. We're nowhere near done yet. In fact, we're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Guys, with Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth to any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Well, friends, we're also proudly brought to you by FanDuel. Miami Hurricanes now 10.5-point favorites against Georgia Tech, so the line is shrinking just a bit. That tells me, again, the bettors and the wise guys are expecting Haynes King to play this weekend, the Georgia Tech starting quarterback. And guys, you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Got our guy Brad Tejada, who does an awesome job creating content for Canes Wear. He's one of the really one of the hardest working guys in this biz. And I always appreciate when Brad joins us to talk some Hurricanes football, to talk some recruiting. Sticking with the defensive side of the football, Brad, there have been a lot of positive signs pointing to Armwood High School linebacker, four-star Kellen Wiley, potentially becoming a Miami Hurricane. I know he put out a top 10 recently, which didn't narrow it down a whole lot, but there have been some crystal balls pointing Wiley in Miami's direction. Of course, his high school teammate Gerard Pringle, four-star running back, is already committed. I know Miami would also like to maybe flip Tyler Williams, wide receiver teammate there. So what's going on right now with Wiley and anyone else from Armwood that we may be going after?
Yeah, there's a few of those guys. I mean, you mentioned about 3 or 4, and we still missed a couple that I'll mention as well. But I mean, right off the bat, Kellen Wiley is a linebacker that Miami was one of the first big schools to offer. So it definitely meant a lot to Kellen and the family for someone like the University of Miami of really recognizing his talent before this upcoming season has went on for him. I will say this. Him and his teammate, another guy, Cameron White, another edge rusher / linebacker, very similar to Kellen Wiley. Both of those guys have been taking visits to other programs like Michigan. They could be somewhat of a package deal. I'm not 100% on that, but as we know, the package deals really never work out. But Kellen Wiley is definitely a guy that Miami prioritizes very high on the list, and I believe that when it's all said and done, he's probably going to end up a Miami Hurricane. Where does Cameron White end up in that mix? I'm not too sure if they end up wanting to splitting up and play elsewhere. But another guy to look out for. This past weekend against Duke, I had the privilege of taking the kids to the football game and got to chop it up with not only Patricia Ward, Cam Ward's mom, after the game. But I got to
What a family.
lace. Oh man, what a great family. I kind of asked her after the game, who's got the best jump shot in the family. She kind of gave me the Kobe Bryant look, and like, oh, like don't even try me with that. You already know who's got the best jumper. So, but other than chopping up with Patricia and the Ward family, some other notable 2026 guys that we were targeting at the Duke game that I saw was Jalen Waters, Armwood cornerback as well, who's a 2026 guy who's currently committed to Florida. Obviously, with the season Florida's having right now, he's going to be another guy to watch on top of Tyler Williams and Kellen Wiley, are all Armwood guys. And this is a high school program that Miami hasn't really had the most success with in the past. I believe this will be the kickstart to something new with Mario under the realm as head coach of Miami. We're going to start to get some of these other high schools a lot more involved, and I think Armwood is right at the top of the list. So I would say Tyler Williams with the CJ Wiley commitment to Georgia, flipping from Florida State to Georgia. He's probably at the top of the list from a wide receiver board standpoint that I feel the most confident in right now. I think Dallas Wilson is trending in a different direction as of right now, and I think Vernell Brown, when it's all said and done, is probably going to remain as a Florida Gator. And who knows what happens with Jamie French. Obviously, Texas is doing a pretty good job as well. But I like Tyler Williams. He's a guy that Miami's been continuously committing from the beginning, so it's not like someone that we've kind of put the brakes on. Other than that, other 2026 guys I saw this past weekend, Jackson Cantwell, 6'8" offensive tackle, number one offensive lineman in the country. And when you see this young man in person, like, this dude is massive. He is like Markel Bell all over again, but he already seems like he fits the part. He gives me Francis Mainoa vibes, just a guy that could walk into your program and literally play and start day one. Both of his parents were Olympians. I believe his mom was in the shot put in 2008, and his dad was in the Olympics in 2000. And this is a guy that is also one of the best shot putters in the country. Who knows if he ends up doing that at the next level. And then another guy that does, a couple great things is Kendra Harrison, number one tight end in the country, dual sport athlete with basketball and football. North Carolina is at the top of the board, obviously because of basketball reasons, but he was at the game as well. So those are three just notable 2026 guys that I saw this past weekend at the Duke game. Obviously, great time. Got to see Xavier Restrepo and the family as well, getting him getting that award and getting the all-time receptions and yards off the no-look pass from Cam Ward that got overlooked. Talk about a no-look that got overlooked by fans and others. When you break down that play in particular, it was one of those things that NFL scouts are going to be replaying each and every week. And I'll say this just a side note that, anyone that didn't get to go to the game or experience some stuff after the game, Xavier Restrepo, I'm going to tell y'all one of the boss moves I've seen all year. Isn't what this young man does on the field, but it's what he does off the field. And as y'all know, he takes care of, the fans and his family very well. And, he's always in consideration of others. Well, him and his younger brother, Dom, who's going to be a phenomenal football player as well when his time comes. After the football game, when Xavier Restrepo got his record-breaking football, he walked out of the locker room, Alex, and he literally tossed it to his younger brother as if it was like his car keys after a long day at work, and just throwing it on the couch. Literally just tossed it to his younger brother and said, "Here, man, go play fetch with this thing." Like, just the relentless, like, of just like how he is on the field and just not caring about the accolades off the field is just kudos to X and what he does for this program.
That's unbelievable. And by the way, I love how when you're gonna set a record like he did, he broke a record, he tied two others on that play. What a great play to do it on a 66-yard touchdown. I mean, because a lot of times it's like, oh, he's just broken the all-time program receiving record, and it happens on like a 4-yard catch, right? To do it the way that he did it in dramatic fashion was just unflipping believable. Now you talked about chopping it up with Cam Ward's mom. I had a chance to meet her and Cam's father, Calvin Ward, at the ACC Media Days, and I could just chatting with them. I can understand why Cam is such a great guy, because just an unbelievable family, and we see what Ward has been doing this year, Brad. How do you think he matches up against Georgia Tech this Saturday. Their defense is all right, but it's like, unless you've got like a top 2 or a top 3 defense, you're probably not slowing down Miami's offense.
Well, I mean, let's just talk about some of the accomplishments that not only Cam Ward, but this team has gone through this season,
Yeah.
right? I mean, Miami has the most points on offense and the most yards in the country on offense through 10 games, right? And then also on top of that, you got the second leading passer in the country and Cam Ward currently. And then I think the two most glaring things, in my opinion, that has been overlooked by this football team is the being first, and not only first down conversions, but third down conversions. I don't think people understand how hard it is that you can be first down in the country on third downs, right? So if you're first in the country on third downs, how many opportunities are you having on first downs, and vice versa, to convert those third downs? And then you're also number one in the country on converting on first downs, right? So that's the number one thing I see. But then the second thing is we're third in time of possession. So you talk about all these points that Cam Ward and this offense is putting up, but we're putting them up in bunches. We're putting them up within 3 to 4 minute drives. And yet our time of possession is still number 3 in the country. Just goes to show you the elite balance that this offense is playing with. And when you look at Georgia Tech, I mean, Cam Ward is going to have a phenomenal day this weekend, in my opinion. You got a Georgia Tech team that is 126 in the country in sacks. So my question is this: how are you going to get pressure on the number one player in the country, the number one quarterback in the country, in Cam Ward? They have already had issues getting pressure to the quarterback. You thought Miami had problems getting to the quarterback, which honestly, they haven't had issues getting pressure. It's more of getting the sacks, which I hope that happens this weekend. But I would say getting pressure on Cam Ward is going to be very tough for Georgia Tech. I see Cam Ward throwing for 300, 400 yards again, at least 3 or 4 touchdowns. And then also they're top 10 in the country in turnovers, Georgia Tech, as far as losing the ball. Now, a lot of that is misleading. They don't have many turnovers as far as fumbles and interceptions on offense. Most of their fumbles and turnovers have actually came off of special teams. And as y'all know, they fired their special teams coach 2 weeks ago. So we'll see if that improves. But between kicking and punt formations, that's where they tend to get the ball turned over a lot. And this could be a wet football game this weekend. From what I was told, I got to chop it up with Kelly Quinlan, who's a writer for Rivals and Yahoo for the Golden Jackets for Georgia Tech. I had him on the Canesward Daily podcast that we'll be dropping this week. But all around, I mean, you got a quarterback situation in Haynes King that hasn't played in 3 weeks of football. They're coming off of a bye and 2 losses to Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. And throughout the last couple of weeks of practice for Georgia Tech, they've actually been juggling 3 different quarterbacks. So just the timing of everything between him, Pyron, and, of course, the other quarterback that they had to throw in the mix this past week, they got a lot of inconsistency of guys not only on the field but also practicing. So I'm interested to see the timing of everything once it's all said and done. But I think Haynes King does play this football game.
Well, I got to get Brad's prediction, because there was a time this year where he gave you the exact final score about 2 days before it actually happened. So you guys want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet. We got Brad Taha from Canesward Daily with you right here on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Keep it locked. Guys, your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through HIMS, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints, Viagra, and Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on the site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works best for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety info. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure for your next listen, you check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack and I, we take you around the conference. We were talking college football playoff rankings on our last episode. Make sure you check that out. Available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube, just like this show, Locked On Canes. And we are joined here on Locked On Canes by Brad Tejeda. All right, Brad, you made the folks who were smart enough to listen to you, unlike me, you made them like $1 trillion with your exact score prediction for the Florida opener, 41-17 Miami. You said it. It happened. What are you looking at for this Saturday? You said you expect Haynes King to play. I do as well. I think he's going to be back. I think the extra week off, the bye week that Georgia Tech just had is going to help his recovery. So assuming he plays, he'll probably throw for a lot of yards because that's what happens when quarterbacks go up against Miami. I still don't think that's going to be enough for Georgia Tech to pull off the upset. Miami is going to win this game. But what do you say about the final score?
Yeah, I mean, Haynes King, I think first and foremost, probably going to play this game. Mario Cristobal and Lance Guidry knows him and that family very well. And that's a guy that is very well known in the Texas high school community as well. And this guy is a gamer, even though he didn't have quite the game last year against against Miami. They got the W, as we know, the fumble debacle and everything around that. But that was one of his only few games that he had a bad performance in last year. And he hasn't played many games this year. So I expect him to try to have that Super Bowl type of comeback against Miami. I believe this score is going to end up being a little bit more higher scoring than what people expect. I'm going to go 41-24 Miami. I think when you look at this Georgia Tech offense, they rely on big plays. They got a young man, Malik Rutherford, South Florida native out of Wiley at Championat. Shout out to my guy, Hector Clavijo, that got to coach him in high school. But this is a young man that always wanted that Miami Hurricane offer, always wanted to play for the Canes. He's a guy that's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. And when you look at their wide receiver room as a whole, almost every guy on that depth chart, they're averaging 15 to 20 plus yards a catch. So they rely huge on the big plays. And as you know, with our defense, we're bend don't break type of defense, it seems like. So there will be opportunities for them to throw it deep and test the secondary, which is going to be a little banged up moving forward. I want to see what happens with guys like Zaquan Patterson, and hopefully someone like Ryan Day could get his feet under him in the next couple of weeks. But all in all, I got 41-24 Miami.
Yeah, and something expand on that a little bit with the defensive secondary, because we're definitely not seeing Jadis Richard this weekend. We unfortunately probably won't see him again this year. Mario Cristobal acknowledged that his injury is significant, his lower body injury. Cristobal did say there's optimism with Damari Brown returning, but not for this week. Like, we're not going to see Damari Brown against Georgia Tech. I'm hoping maybe we see him after the next bye week against Wake Forest. So how do you think Miami's secondary is going to line up? And I hope, like you said, we get a start or at least a lot more playing time for Zaquan Patterson, who is earning it.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing, honestly, because Zaquan Patterson, just everything you've been hearing throughout camp and fall and spring practice, and then obviously the athletic and talent that he has, it's pretty evident that he should be on the field more. And it definitely seems like he should have got more playing time throughout this year. But now, unfortunately, with some of the injuries, he's going to have to get more playing time. And also someone like Mish Powell, who've been playing at the safety spot mostly all year, is going to have to probably play a lot more slot moving forward. And that, I think, will also help someone like Daryl Porter Jr., who's been playing mostly slot for us all year. I think he's more of a boundary corner than a slot guy. So if you can maybe put Daryl Porter Jr. on one boundary and OJ on that other boundary, and now Mish Powell is at your slot, now you got someone like Zaquan Patterson and Jaden Harris as well as your two safeties. But I think, Jaden is one of those guys that's going to have to step up. And also we're going to have to see if some of these other young guys, like a Ryan Day, for instance, if he could get his feet under him in the next couple of weeks, people talk about Ryan. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan Mack.
Ryan Mack.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm putting the two confused. So Ryan Mack, Ryan Mack is someone that I think people are overlooking. When you look at OJ Romanes Frederick and you talk about his man-on-man coverage and just his technique and where he is from a fundamental standpoint, that's one of the reasons why OJ is able to play week in and week out and really not miss a beat. Ryan Mack's fundamental and technique is just as good as OJ, if not better. So I think people are getting a little taste of what Ryan Mack could bring to the table with the way OJ's been playing. So I look for Ryan Mack to really get more involved, hopefully at the end of the season. And if Damari Brown could come back after that bye, that's really going to help form some things. I just think from here on out, you can't have any more injuries in that secondary.
Well, as you guys could tell, Brad Taha does an awesome job breaking down all things Miami and recruiting. Let people know, Brad, where they can find your content with the Canes Wear Daily show that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So you can find us on the Fins Talk Sports Network, FTSN, the Canes Wear Daily podcast. We do about 4 or 5 times a week on the YouTube channel. And then we also have our live show every Tuesday, either 8 or 9 o'clock Eastern with me, Brett, the owner of Canes Wear, and then two of some of the biggest well-known fans in the community with Cliff and Armando as well. We had John Michaels on last night. So great crew as always, talking Hurricanes football. And yeah, you can catch me on X as well. Follow me at Taha Brad for all your recruiting and Miami Nuggets throughout the week. And just throw this out there. We're playing Georgia Tech this weekend. We got 2 notable recruits that we're still going after that are Georgia Tech guys. You got Derry Norris, defensive lineman that from Spruce Creek that is currently Georgia Tech commit. And then you also got the offensive lineman and Demolola out of Georgia as well, who we just offered late in October. Those are 2 guys to watch out for that hopefully we could turn in the right direction after this Georgia Tech game. And, of course, you got Bradley Gumpers and Tavares TJ Alford, Vero Beach linebacker. Those are 2 linebackers in particular. I know we talked about Kellen Wiley, but I like those 2 guys as well.
I love it. And I love when Brad joins us at Taha Brad on X. Follow us at Locked On Canes. And folks, we got more coming up this week. You know that. We're going to have the ACC squad later today. So we'll talk to you next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.